Well, the day after the fallout, welcome to Thanksgiving week. He is Caleb Calhoun. I am Dave Hooker. Caleb, quickly, your favorite Thanksgiving side dish is?
Mac and cheese. I'm a mac and cheese guy.
Oh man,
Usually.
what about deviled eggs?
I like deviled eggs, but mac and cheese has just always been my go-to. I love mac and cheese. It's the greatest.
It's tough to beat. We'll get your thoughts on the message board. Also, we have today's tough question. John Adams set to join us very shortly. And here we go, up and at 'em. Can you explain the outfit? You're looking quite dapper today there, Caleb Calhoun.
Well, I decided to wear a somewhat British jacket the week of Thanksgiving just to, troll everybody in the world. No, I'm kidding. This is a kind of a Union Jacks type of jacket, but I just think, Thanksgiving, we were British during that time. It's to celebrate the Pilgrims and the Native Americans connection, and we'll bring in John Adams. He can tell us more because I think he was at the first Thanksgiving.
He was
But
the first Thanksgiving, and he is British as well. So, John Adams, you look at us, and I'm not sure what Caleb is, but you see a Scottish Irish person deep down in your psyche wants to kill me since you're British.
Say that again, Dave.
Do you want to kill me since you're British?
No, I don't want to kill anybody except a turkey I strangled with my bare hands when we were just starting out in the old colonial days.
That's right. So who does the meat here? We are men. So typically the man does the meat. Who does the meat here, and what do you make? And let me hear about you on the message board too. Something exotic is what I'm looking for.
I
don't
smoked
do
the turkey.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
good for you. I don't do anything.
What do you do? Just
Hang out and wait for the food to be prepared.
there you go. Well, my favorite.
That's how we did it. That's how we did it in the colonial days, Dave.
There you go. My favorite is definitely deviled eggs. I start those at about 8:30 in the morning, and I finish them at about 8:30 at night. So, what do you think about that, Caleb? Is that too much eggs?
No, I love deviled eggs. I love deviled eggs. I think that's great. I am the Memphis in me comes out. I'm up here. I put my turkey in our grill, and we smoke it for 4 hours. We put like little hickory flavored woods on there, and yeah, we smoke our turkey.
Maybe I should be at your house. I don't remember having a turkey that good here.
Well, I'm just down the road. Come by and see me. You're always welcome, John. Here we go. A lot to get to on the program today. And we remind you that today's tough question, which is on the YouTube page, is brought to you by Andy Mason, realestate.com. So the Vols' biggest disappointments of the season. Forgive us if we believe Vanderbilt's going to be a one-sided contest and Tennessee's going to win. So it gives us an opportunity to look back at the season. If that doesn't happen, then we've got a heck of a show Monday. Can transfers save UT? Also, our football IQ segment. And we'll also have, should Heupel pull the trigger and start Nico on Saturday? I'm changing gears on that based off some things that I've heard recently. So we'll get to that later in the program. And the basketball team is in Maui. Best trip. I know the answer to this because we talked about it off the air, but best trip you ever got the News Sentinel to pay for there, John?
That was to Europe.
Yeah.
France, Switzerland, Belgium, Luxembourg.
Yeah, he just throws out, oh, Switzerland, Belgium. No big deal.
Wait, what did they send you there for?
I just told him I thought I could come up with some cool columns if, they let me branch out a little bit, and they were all for it. No, the women's basketball team was on a tour there. Dan Flesser was the beat person at the time. Dan was in a friend's wedding, and he couldn't go, so I stepped in. Okay, well, I mean, those guys are really good friends, and that's great. But I got to go to France and Switzerland and stay in the best hotels, eat the best food. I wasn't even on deadline.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. So did you get to go to Vienna and figure out how they pack all those sausages into the little cans?
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, that's what I did. I was looking at the Alps, Dave.
Yeah.
I really didn't care about canned sausage.
Okay, here we go. It is going to be today's tough question. It's on our YouTube page right now, so we want you to go ahead and vote. And the question is pretty simple, but I'm going to be honest with you. John and I came up with it yesterday, and it is a little bit loaded because you don't have the option to say I have zero concern about Josh Heupel, and it's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Andy Mason has 40 years of experience in East Tennessee, best service, best prices in the biz. So we phrased it this way on purpose because, Caleb, to not have any sort of concern about Josh Heupel is blind loyalty. And I appreciate that out of fandom. I really do. But the simple fact is blind loyalty is not what we're looking for here. So I will start out asking you the question, and then I want to get to John. How much doubt do you have in Josh Heupel after the way this season played out? Some. Everybody should have some. Was it Nick Saban's second season that they lost to Louisiana Monroe at Alabama, John? Is that right?
No, first.
I thought it was his first season.
Okay, first season. So there would be reason to have concern there. So you should have concern with any newish coach. So I've got some as a choice, enough, too much. So too much is you're pretty much worried at this point. You're concerned about the future of the program under Josh Heupel. Some is very understandable. Too much, I think, is where a lot of people are going to fall, John, because I think people did have that blind loyalty and love before the beginning of the season. And the way this season's played out, I think people have taken that confidence level and ratcheted it down a bit. What do you hear from the community?
Yeah, there's definitely, that's what my inbox reflects. And I always make a distinction. It's one thing to criticize a coach and say, you should have done this differently. I don't understand why you did that. I'm concerned about personnel matters, as opposed to say, well, we got to get somebody else. We know what happens most often when Tennessee says, I got to get somebody else. Blind loyalty is an extreme that leads you in step with Jeremy Pruitt. Let's follow him to the promised land. No, that won't work out. But so I think yes, there are a lot of concerns. These aren't, but the first 2 years were very unusual. It was an upward trajectory. I think Josh Heupel's a really good offensive coach. I guess the things I question, and the biggest thing, and we've talked about this before, but he knows what his offensive system can do. He knows what quarterbacks look like in his offensive system. He's been doing this a while as an offensive coordinator, as a head coach. Why did he ever think Joe Milton would fit this offense?
I think that's the number one concern. So, want to be clear, nobody's suggesting that Tennessee is due for a coaching change. Goodness knows they don't want to go about that. But let me get into the message board thoughts as well. SC Scout guy, who's a South Carolina fan, so I do like to get his opinion. I don't think you should have any concern with Josh Heupel. He has Tennessee at about the point that I think they should be in this day and age. Tennessee is never going to be elite like UGA and Bama. It is just reality. Your thoughts on that comment, Caleb?
I think there is I would say some concern, but I would say it's very, very slight. My slight concern is, and it's been a thing for me for a while, is talent evaluation. It's the same concern that, honestly, I think people are talking. It's funny, people are talking about the Patriots and Bill Belichick right now, and I think the biggest issue with Bill Belichick is not Bill Belichick the coach, it's Bill Belichick the GM, because he's just missing on talent left and right. I think Josh Heupel.
Caleb, can I stop you for a second? Talent evaluation is a big one. I mean, that's big one.
Let me finish. I think it's slight. And here's why I think it's slight. I think he missed on Joe Milton. I think the odds are low that he would continue to miss on quarterbacks, quite honestly. I don't think the odds are that high. And I also think, given Josh Heupel's system, I think in an age of NIL, if Josh Heupel gets the right quarterback, and I think he's got the right quarterback from next year with Nico, if he can, Nico should help him get Tennessee to a certain level, and then NIL will help on top of that. That will allow Tennessee to be on the level to recruit with the top dogs. And when you're recruiting among the top dogs, I'm sorry, Dave, I know you covered it. I don't think talent evaluation is that big of a deal. I mean, I'm sorry. I've said this before. I could get my wife to look at 5 stars and she could be like, "Oh, they're great. You should recruit them." There's not a lot of evaluation when you're recruiting once you're recruiting at that level.
John, there is something to that. I mean, when I go to camps, and I have over the years, the 10, 15 best guys at the camp. You don't have to be Caleb's wife to figure that out. It's really not that difficult. So what Caleb is saying is that Tennessee will thrust themselves into the battle of the top 5 and 4 stars, basically what you're saying, right, Caleb? And that they'll win some of those battles and everything will be fine. John, thoughts, Mr. President?
Well, that's possible. I think the talent evaluation, you're not recruiting a class of 5 stars. I think the talent evaluation comes in when you're recruiting 3 stars, because some of these guys turn into 5 stars. And coaches can do that. Usually do pretty well. I'm not saying you win with all 3 stars, or Vanderbilt would not be knocking on the college football playoff door, maybe. You've got to get the right 3 stars. That's the distinction. And I think we talk about talent evaluation. I think it's paramount in the transfer portal. You've got this wave, and it's going to be a crashing wave of players starting December 4th that come into this transfer portal. I don't think we haven't seen anything like what's coming. It's going to be all over the place. So you've got all these players to choose from, and it's not as though you've been looking at them for 3-4 years. They haven't been in your camp, probably. Maybe some have. But you're looking at all these guys, and you got to make a decision, and you have to make a decision pretty fast. Because most of them already have an inkling of where they're going when they go into the portal. They have some idea, but that's where it's going to be crucial. We've seen it. Tennessee's got some transfers. Hendon Hooker, Jeremy Pruitt recruited him. That was a monstrous get. He became an All-American caliber player. Joe Milton, not so much. But there are these other guys. You look in the offensive line, you look at defensive back, you look at all these different positions. That's where you're going to determine your success. I mean, I think Tennessee's next season, its record can be very much affected by what happens in December with these transfers. I mean, how many freshmen are really going to help you next year? I just think it's going to be those transfers, and that's where the evaluations become extremely important.
Yep. And Caleb, I want to get your take on that. So let's change gears. Can Tennessee change the direction of their program with just transfer portals? I've started to use the word save UT. Caleb, is that too strong? I mean, save UT from 8 and 9 win seasons and take them to the championship level. Is save too strong, Caleb, before we change gears and get to the transfer portal and what Tennessee might be looking at?
I don't think, save is too strong. You can't save your program with transfers. You can't do it. You're not going to compete with the Georgias and Alabamas with just transfers. You're never going to compete with them. You can maybe be like a Lane Kiffin and get lucky every other year and land and just strike gold in the transfers you pull in, so you have a 10-2 season. But nobody's looking at Lane Kiffin doing that in Ole Miss and thinking that he's going to win any sort of championship doing that.
Including Lane Kiffin. He's not happy about the way things are going and the lack of consistent transfer portal players that are coming in. Portions of the program brought to you by Apex Apparel Group. Design, brand, market your way. Call Tyler. Unique products to promote your business with unparalleled customer service. ApexApparelGroup.com. ApexApparelGroup.com. All right, guys. So when we look at the pack, can you pull up the past group of transfers that came in? Because I think we all thought that they were all going to be all SEC players, and that has not been the case. As a matter of fact, I have them pulled up right now. I'm just getting some. By the way, the Cranberry Sprite Zero is absolutely horrible. I just got an ad for that. You don't want any part of that. Run from that. Like, I don't know. What's the worst Thanksgiving side? That cranberry stuff with cranberries in it, cranberry sauce with the cranberries in it. Is that the worst?
Green beans with the little stems in there.
Oh, who doesn't take? By the way, I'm to the point. I don't know if I'm getting old, John. Maybe I should ask you. I'm to the
You
point,
are getting old.
yeah, no, I'm to the point where I'm over the casseroles and I just want the sides, like a well done side of green beans, as opposed to green beans with some mysterious mushroom Campbell soup in it.
Well, yeah, I'm not picky. I just want it to taste good.
Yeah.
And
Okay. So we could
my
get,
brother-in-law cooks. He'll bring over a dish, and I'm
yeah.
not going to eat it just because he cooked it. It better taste good.
All right. Speaking of tasting good, there were some prospects that didn't taste too good for Tennessee's football program. Let me start.
It's a weird way to phrase it.
Yeah, no,
It's an
carry on.
incredibly terrible segue, but
Yes,
that's
thank
what
you.
you need to do sometimes. No,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
problem.
they can't all be winners.
No.
Gabe Judy Lawley, John Campbell Jr., Omar Norman Lott, Dante Thornton Jr., Keenan Peely, Andre Keurig, Charles Campbell, McAllen Castles. Pardon me. Let's look at that list. Gabe Judy Lawley is probably my favorite because of his selflessness on this group. John Campbell Jr. was a bona fide starter. I never thought he was a great starter, despite him making Cole Kubelik's videos. Omar Norman Lott, I think, is obviously pretty good, and I came on at the end of the season. Dante Thornton Jr., up and down, started down, got up. Keenan Pilley hurt for the season. Andre Keurig only found the field when there were other injuries in front of him. Charles Campbell can kick. McAllen Castles was definitely a good pickup. So if Tennessee gets a similar class of transfers that they got this year and they get it next year, John, how do you feel about Tennessee's ability to take another step ahead?
They'll take another step backward. You got to get more out of the transfer portal than that. When you're going to get a transfer, you're not trying to get a guy that will be a strong backup. You're not trying to get somebody that can fill in when a starter's hurt. You're looking for guys that come in and start. I mean, kind of like Brew McCoy did. That's what you want in a transfer. Look at last year when Billy Napier brought in Osiris Torrance from his former school, Louisiana, and the guy became an all-SEC offensive lineman. That's what you want. You're not looking for guys you need to develop. It's kind of like getting JUCOs, except it's even more extreme. These guys have to be coming in and play. I mean, Dante Thornton made a nice catch before he got hurt, but that guy was a bust. He's a bust. You expected him to come in and catch 40 passes. This kind of recruiting class from the transfer portal will set Tennessee back if it's no better next season.
Yeah, I think the transfer portal has gone now from the sweet potato casserole that was okay. Some people like it, some people didn't, to turkey for Thanksgiving. You better have a damn turkey on the table. And I don't think Tennessee had a turkey on the table for this transfer class. Too many turkeys, as a matter of fact. Injuries played a factor into that. But if they repeat this group and they stay healthy, Caleb, let me make it harder on you. If they repeat this kind of group heading into the 2024 season, do you believe Tennessee is elevated and a championship contender with this group that stays healthy?
Yeah, and actually I'm going to disagree with John a little bit on this. I think it's hard to evaluate this transfer class because of injuries. Look, Keenan Peely, Tennessee has had major issues at middle linebacker this year, and they had no depth there. I think we all agree Keenan Peely healthy would have been a huge difference. We didn't see enough of him, but I'm about 95% sure he'd have been a great player had he been healthy the whole year for Tennessee. And we brought up Gabe Judy Lawley. Look at Omar Norman Lott. He's now turned into the best defensive tackle on this team, and the best defensive tackle as part of the best unit. I don't know if you guys noticed, the defensive line is by far the best unit on this team, and Omar Norman Lott is the anchor of that. John Campbell Jr. emerged into a really good left tackle until he got hurt. I think the only one you could really say Heupel missed on towards the end. I understand your point about Dante Thornton, John, and Dave knows I was the toughest critic. I do think he was starting to emerge just before he got hurt. But I get your point. You bring in a transfer like Dante Thornton because you expect him to play and be ready to go week 1. You don't expect him to be ready, wait till November for him to be ready to go. So I understand your point on that. But Omar Norman Lott was ready to go and turned out well. John Campbell Jr. was ready to go and turned out well. Keenan Peely would have been ready to go and would have turned out well. and Gabe
Oh.
Jeudy-Lally was ready to go and turned out well. I think the only clear-cut miss was Andre Carrick, who I just think can't play football.
Okay, but let me ask you this. How many of these guys had impacts? Okay. And John, I want to ask you this. It's brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Enjoy life better when you see better. Local vision service for LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examinations. Look at me. I can see. ccteyes.com, ccteyes.com. Couple of people that I'm going to pick on for a second. John Campbell Jr. was fine at left tackle, but goodness gracious, with the state that they were in, somebody had to start there, right? And Dante Thornton, I thought, showed up young. I'm not counting the injuries, but I don't think he was prepared for the college level. So, yes, these guys were supporting players, but what about a Jahmyr Gibbs at Alabama that's a true impact player? Shouldn't Tennessee fans and Josh Heupel expect to get one of those guys, the type of guy that wins a game? The best you got out of this group was McCallan Castles, and I don't think he affected the record.
Of course they should. I mean, if they're trying to win championships, they need to bring in a guy that has an immediate impact. Hendon Hooker had an impact. That kind of player. You look, Jaden Daniels, at LSU transfer from Arizona State. I think he's done okay. He might win the Heisman. Tennessee's not picking up any Heisman candidates. Gabe Jeudy-Lally, if you get a transfer coming into this secondary and he doesn't come in and start immediately, you failed.
Fair.
This is not a good secondary. Keenan Peely, I think Keenan Peely could have really helped at linebacker. I can't say for sure he'd have been an outstanding linebacker. I don't think he would have been an all-SEC caliber linebacker. But some of these other schools are getting all-conference caliber players. And if you want to compete with them in the transfer, that's where you got to hit some home runs. Tennessee did that with Hendon Hooker. I don't think it realized it had hit a home run. I think thought it hit a bloop single, but the ball cleared the fence, and he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. So that's what you need to get out of the portal. You need to get those kind of guys.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that they need to be 2 or 3 guys like a Jahmyr Gibbs at Alabama that have a big impact. I don't think that you need to build your team around transfer guys, because this team does have the kumbaya feel. We've seen that be successful before. The other end is you coach them hard and you say, if you don't like it, leave. You're going to be ready for the NFL. And that's Georgia, Alabama. Other than that, the kumbaya feel has worked at places, Southern California, Miami, some of those places. So if you're going to bring those guys in and not disrupt chemistry, then they need to play. They need to have an impact. So the question is, how much doubt, do you have in Josh Heupel? Some, 72%, enough, 6%, too much, 22%. Anything about those numbers surprise you guys?
Dave, I apologize. I was reading a post from Robert Rexroad. When is this show going to focus on the Ladies Lingerie Football League? That kind of caught my eye. Go over those percentages again, please.
Dave's going to star in it this year, guys.
Yeah. Some, 72%, enough, 6%, too much, 22%. How much doubt do you have in Josh Heupel?
I think those percentages are pretty accurate. It's not as though everybody's abandoned the Josh Heupel ship. I think they just have some concerns about how this season went, how games went, and are wondering why he tries to kick these field goals, at the meaningless field goals near the end of games. They're laughable. So just things like that. And the quarterback, I think the quarterback issue dominates the fan base. Why did you think this guy was going to be a big-time quarterback?
Well, and I think we talked about it. The guys at Notre Dame now, Caleb, they could have gone out and gotten another quarterback, and there was really no desire for them to do so in the transfer portal. And I remember John talking to him about that. He said, oh, they'll pick up a quarterback. They didn't.
Well,
I'm
sorry.
Go ahead, Cal. No, go ahead.
Wasn't Dave, you and John, you guys are both more plugged in than me on this. How aggressive do you think Josh Heupel was in the transfer portal to maybe try to get a quarterback last December, and it just didn't pan out? He just couldn't get one.
I think that's exactly what happened. It was the way things developed because Joe Milton was a offensive MVP of the Orange Bowl, and you're bringing in the number one recruit in the country at quarterback. So if you're Sam Hartman or some other transfer portal, you make your next move, it's got to be somewhere you're going to start. Now, some guys, a number of quarterbacks did that and they didn't start. But if you're really careful about it, why would you come into a program and the quarterback with whom you're going to compete was just MVP of the Orange Bowl, knows the system, knows the players he set. So I think it would have been extremely difficult to get a top flight transfer quarterback to come in here.
Okay, let me tell you why I disagree with that. And it's brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. Don't trust a fly-by-night HVAC company to tell you that you need a new unit. You might just need a new part or Freon. So don't spend thousands when you don't have to. cityheatandair.com. Here's why I disagree with that. I think you sit down, you have a conversation, you put your arm around whoever the quarterback is that you really want, that you think can take you to the next level. And let's say that's Sam Hartman. You put your arm around him, you watch a little tape, you say, look at this, the guy can't play. You know it, I know it, we all know it. So you can come in here and compete for a starting position. And it's an offense that you can just absolutely blow it up in. Now, that's not to say that he'll definitely come, but that was not Josh Heupel's approach from the get. At least if he would have had that approach and gotten told no by Hartman, I think Tennessee fans would feel a lot better, like they were stuck in this position and like they didn't drive down the road in this position.
Well, I just don't think a quarterback would buy that. I mean, coaches say anything to get a player on campus. I mean, I just don't think there's any way a quarterback, because you say what you will about Joe Milton, he was MVP of the Orange Bowl. So why would you see him? You see the arm. I think when an athlete has great physical skills, other athletes are swayed by that. They're dazzled by it sometimes. Sam Hartman said, "Man, I can't throw a ball like that." I just think that makes a really favorable impression on players. So I don't think there's any way they could have gotten a quarterback of that caliber here. I just don't.
You think, Caleb?
Yeah, I'm kind of with John. It's kind of how everything developed. The mistake started all the way back in 2021 when Josh Heupel went for Joe Milton and didn't just go for Joe Milton, guys. And I was, as much as I'm defending Josh Heupel now, I was probably his loudest critic during this moment because it was very obvious to me that he didn't just go for Joe Milton. He went for Joe Milton and tried to clear the quarterback room for Milton. I don't know if you guys remember Joe Milton. He transferred from Michigan, committed to Tennessee, but committed late, so he wasn't able to take part in spring practice. Josh Heupel is selling us all in this open quarterback competition in the spring game. And here's Joe Milton on the sideline just watching. He brings Joe Milton on the sideline to watch, and it's becoming very clear to everybody that, this isn't even a real competition. Joe Milton's going to be the starter the minute he sets foot on campus, and there's not even going to be a chance. And then it looked even worse when Milton got the nod, and 2 games in, Hendon Hooker comes in, and I remember when Hendon Hooker came in against Pittsburgh and threw that interception. Even with that interception, John, you still thought he was significantly better, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the eye test, it was no comparison. You're right.
All right.
Yes.
Let's change gears slightly as we want to get to biggest disappointments of the season. It would be Vanderbilt if Tennessee somehow loses to Vanderbilt, but we all believe that's not going to happen, and I would be stunned if that happened. Portions of the program brought to you by Herald Group Security Solutions. I'll tell you that more. Biggest disappointment of the season, guys, I usually let you guys go first. I'm going to throw mine out there. It is the handling of the quarterback. So we can talk about a specific player. We can talk about a concept. We can talk about a game, wherever you want to go right now on the message board. And John, let me lead with you. To me, it's just the way they handled the quarterback situation, because I thought there was a glass ceiling from the get. And as it turns out, like usual, you usually say, I was right.
I guess I look at the quarterback situation differently because I really thought Joe Milton, put too much stock in the Orange Bowl game and perhaps gave him too much credit for that. I thought he played very well in a high pressure situation. There's a lot of pressure on him to do well because it was kind of up to him whether the Tennessee would win or lose. He threw 3 touchdown passes. I know there were a lot of there were a lot of 3 and outs, and people mentioned those, but that was not. I guess that wasn't the Joe Milton I was expecting to see. I wasn't thinking he'd be that good. So when he was that good, it really increased my opinion of him. And I thought, yeah, Tennessee can win with this guy. I thought they had the necessary pieces around him to be successful and win 10 games. Very wrong on all that. But I do think, so I guess I was disappointed. Yeah, the handling of it, because Josh Heupel was wrong about Joe Milton. I mean, that has been one of the biggest biggest impacts of anything with UT football the last couple of years. He was wrong about Joe Milton. So that's part of it. But I also thought Joe Milton would be better than he has been.
And John, also this season, it has had as big an effect on anything in the SEC that occurred during the season, other than Nick Saban finding Jalen Milroe, which worked out on the flip side. Scott says, absolutely, Dave, 100%. We would have never seen Hendon if Joe hadn't gotten hurt. And then I don't know where he was going to go. So, what about you? What's the biggest standout disappointment from this season that's probably going to end up at 8-4?
Look, it's Joe Milton, but it's a specific aspect to Joe Milton's game, which is this: the Clemson defense last year played bear coverage over the middle, and Joe Milton completed a lot of passes over the middle. And I said, Dave, on our post-game show with it, me, you, and Caleb Gyro were on that post-game show. I remember it distinctly last year after Tennessee beat Clemson. I said, this is a huge deal. The clock's been reset against Joe Milton. It's going to reset how defenses are going to have to play. They're going to have to respect the middle of the field. This whole year happened. I have never seen a quarterback have worse touch on passes over the middle of the field than Joe Milton. I don't mind, actually, the inaccuracy on the deep ball, because I knew that with Josh Heupel's scheme, even if you're not accurate on the deep ball, you're still going to hit 3 of 10 sometimes. And 3 of 10, they all usually go for touchdowns. I mean, Hooker hit about 5 of 10. So I didn't mind that. The reason the deep ball was never there is because nobody had to respect the middle of the field at all, because Joe Milton has zero touch over the middle of the field. And if you're going to throw a bullet, I talked about this yesterday with John, because I think Dave brings up Brett Favre a lot. But if you're going to throw a bullet over the middle of the field, it's got to hit the receiver directly in the chest. It can't be a little bit off where a receiver has to make a play on it. And Joe Milton throws a bullet that doesn't hit the receiver directly in the chest.
Yeah, you don't make back shoulder catches on a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It's got to be right there for you, and that was very challenging. Another thing, Dave, that it's related to the passing game. I really thought this receiving core would be better.
Well,
I know Brew McCoy got hurt, but I thought the 3 guys, Brew, Squirrel White, and Ramel Keaton, would be better as a group.
Here were my thoughts heading into the season. Obviously, I didn't know Brew McCoy was going to get injured. I thought they would be very good. I thought that, especially with a lot of the over the middle passing routes that we saw in the Orange Bowl, I thought that Squirrel White would be highly as effective. They've wasted a year with Squirrel White because Joe Milton was a quarterback, period. Ramel Keaton is just a really good player. I don't think that he's ever going to be a superstar or all SEC player, but I think he's a guy you would take year in and year out on your roster. So, post from the message board. I'd let Coach Heupel sleep with my sister, but I'm pissed as all kinds of Hades over his decisions this year across the board. So that leads us to this. Caleb, do you have a sister, and would you let Josh Heupel sleep with her?
I do not have a sister. I would not let Josh Heupel sleep with my sister if I had one. I am not. I don't care. I would never let. Well, okay. I would never
That's
let
a really bad path to go down.
Yeah.
Dave. Come on.
I would never let any head coach or any
in
player
East
sleep with somebody
Tennessee?
I don't want being slept with. Put it that way.
Yes, it feels like we're having a conversation during the Lane Kiffin era. Hang tight. He's John Adam and Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. We're back in 2 minutes. I've totally changed my tune on should Heupel pull the trigger and start Nico on Saturday. But our favorite, the football IQ segment, is coming up. Basketball with a big win in Miami. Guys, we want to change lives with Herald Group Security Solutions. So take 1 second, perk your ears up. Leadership, experience, specialization. These are former servicemen who have to go through a 90-day training in order to be, I don't even like calling them security guards, security professionals. They address problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques. I mean, they go in and extract people from places. So, yeah, they can handle your workplace and your school and your children's school security, making sure that your children are safer one school at a time. Go to heraldgrp.com or just Google it. Herald Group Security Solutions. They will help avoid the many tragedies that have marred our country recently. So coming back on the program, it's our football IQ segment. Just how dumb can coaches be? The answer is pretty dumb. In 2 minutes, hang tight, hit that like and subscribe button. You know, I love that. 2 minutes, and I can see, thanks to who?
At sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co. What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
So if you go to our poll question on YouTube, you can vote for this question. How much doubt do you have in Josh Heupel? Some, enough, too much. Some leads with 74%, enough, 4%, too much, 22%. We had this question on the YouTube channel. Why is there none option for Heupel concern? Because if you're not concerned about a coach in his 3rd season that took a step back, I don't know what to tell you. If you're not concerned about anybody that takes over your program, not named Saban, who were the locks during your generation? I thought Dan Mullen was going to be a lock. I thought Urban Meyer was a lock. Those were my 3 locks in my lifetime, and I was just 2 for 3. John, how many locks as a coach do you think there have been?
Well, I think Urban Meyer was a lock. I thought Steve Spurrier was a lock.
Can I actually ask you that, John?
Doubted him
when he was hired?
Yes.
Okay.
Quick question before we move on with the Spurrier thing, because I brought this up yesterday, John, and I wanted to get your thoughts. What's the difference between Heupel having a 4-loss season this year, all blowout losses, and Spurrier in 1992, which was his 3rd year? He had 4 blowout losses to Florida State, Tennessee, and I think Mississippi State were part of that.
Yeah, if you look at it from in that context, you could say, yeah, Josh Heupel's another Spurrier. I've used a Spurrier comparison a lot with with Josh Heupel because of what they can do offensively. However, and they each had their own system. I'm not looking at it so much from the record. I mean, you can go from 11-2, lose your key players, go from 11-2 to say 9-4, which Tennessee could obviously finish at that level, and it not be alarming at all. It to me, it just keeps getting back to this thing about the quarterback. I mean, it wasn't like a 1-year deal. It was something that started in 2021 when he handpicked Joe Milton. My point on that, I think Steve Spurrier knew who could run his offense, who would be effective in his offense. He didn't take the 5 stars. He picked guys that worked in that system like Danny Werfel, Rex Grossman did, even Shane Matthews, whom he inherited. So I think it's more about that. To me is kind of glaring. That's the only issue I have with Josh Heupel and offense. It's just you thought this guy would make this offense go full bore, score 40 points a game. And that would be my only concern. It wouldn't be the record. Yeah, anybody could drop. Things could happen, and you could have a drop off in a third season.
Any other concerns? Rocky Top Tom says decisions on conditioning properly, hitting in practice, play calling, etc. I do have a concern about them not hitting in practice. They don't hit very much in practice. I think that's the way to be a better football team. I don't want to get into the all gory details of that and why I believe that makes you a better football team. I think it does make you tougher, but Josh Heupel is not alone in limiting contact. Conditioning, that's come up a couple of different times, John. Did you see, Tennessee's a highly conditioned team. Did you see any instances where players weren't conditioned against Georgia? Caleb, I want to get you on that too, but I didn't see that, but I've heard it like 3 or 4 times on social media.
I think when you look at it, you're watching a game and a team fades, you say, well, it was conditioning. I mean, that's a natural response. I think all college football players are really well conditioned. There aren't any great secrets in strength and conditioning. Everybody has a strength and conditioning coach. They all seem to come from the same family, same genetic code. They can all scream a lot and get you to lift more and go harder, lift higher, run faster. All right, he's a strength and conditioning coach. Good for him. So, yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in that. I mean, sometimes when you got a good team playing a not so good team, it takes a while for the good team's talent advantage to assert itself. You've seen it in a lot of games, not just Tennessee, where the preeminent team starts out kind of slowly, it's finding its way, the underdog's hanging in there, and then as the game goes on longer, the better team establishes its superiority.
Well, and Tennessee used to be that program when they would play Vanderbilt and Kentucky late in the season. Eventually, their talent would just win out. I'm gonna throw a little audible at you here, Caleb. I want to get to some things that I heard about Nico yesterday and why Tennessee is not going to play Nico, and not that they were going to anyway. But what I was told is he's gained 20 pounds. So that would put him at about what? He came in at what, 195, Caleb? Is that right?
Yes, 196.
Okay, 196. So let's say he's pushing 220. He's in that realm. So I think he's big enough to play. But the thing that I was told is that Tennessee's players would lose a lot of faith if Nico went running out there against Vanderbilt on Saturday. That they've been told this whole time, Joe Milton is your guy. They've led them to a 7-win season, probably will be 8, and that he could lose the players on this football team. I was also told there are a lot of players who thought they were just going to step in and win 10 games each and every year. So some of the young players are like, what the H? What's going on? So I don't think, and I've been as pro Nico as anybody in the media that I'm aware of. I don't think you can run him out against Vanderbilt playing this week. You could lose the trust and faith from your football team, especially younger players. John, am I being too sensitive?
You're being way too sensitive. This is big time college football. Are you kidding? You play the best guy. What has the Joe Milton offense produced the last 2 weeks?
Not much.
They got 7 on Missouri, 10 on Georgia. Oh, if they could only hit those last minute field goals, then that would have upped the point total. No, this is a competitive venture. If this guy's not playing well, he shouldn't be out there. If you got somebody you think's better, I'm not worried about, oh man, that, the guys might not like that so much since Joe's a senior. And, we have won 7 games against a pretty accommodating schedule. So we'll just keep playing Joe. I mean, come on. You got to play the best. Football is all about competition, not just at quarterback. In the offensive line, the defensive line, secondary, running back, you name it. The best guy should play. If they think they can do better with Nico, then he needs to be playing. Forget all that warm and fuzzy stuff.
I tend to agree with you until you get to this point in the season. I think it would be strange to make the move now when you're probably going to beat Vanderbilt anyway. Caleb?
Yeah, John, that's where I'm at. You're going to beat Vanderbilt anyway. I don't think it hurts to be a little warm and fuzzy and let Joe just finish off his last game, because here I don't think Joe's going to play the bowl game. I think that Joe's going to opt out and try to focus on his draft. I think, Dave, you could, and John, you may be able to give us your sources. I don't. I think Josh Heupel is going to nudge Joe Milton to opt out and play for the draft so he could play Nico in the bowl game. Also, if he plays Nico against Vanderbilt and in the bowl game, I believe at that point he burns the red shirt. And just for the sake of whether or not there's an injury, you want to kind of keep the red shirt with Nico at this point, since he's only played 3 games. And
yeah, I don't understand. The red shirt, no offense, the red shirt makes no sense to me. If he's playing in 5 years, then you've got the wrong.
Well, you don't know if what if there's an injury or something? Like, what if there's an injury or two? Or, I mean, what if NIL, or in the age of NIL, there's a chance NIL is going to keep some quarterbacks around longer than they should be. Nico got to Tennessee because of an $8 million contract. So,
yeah, but if he's not a first-round pick at the end of his time at Tennessee, John, based off all we heard, isn't that a disappointment?
Very much so. I mean, 5-star quarterbacks don't stick around 5 years. Well, JT Daniels did. I'm sorry. JT Daniels has been around 12 years and played at 15 schools.
Yeah, that's true. I think
he's going to be a travel agent, John. That was his plan.
It's working well.
Some people do stay. I mean, I know it was 4, not 5, but Peyton Manning came back for 97 when he was going to be a number 1 draft pick the year before. I personally think he came back because he didn't want to get drafted by the Jets. And who can blame him for that? But I think some people, I think NIL, it's not that you go pro because of the money or something like that. You would, but I think, look, I'm saying there's a chance that Tennessee's boosters cobble up some money to keep Nico. And then there's the other factor. Again, what I'm trying to bring up is there's the injury factor. What if Nico Hendon Hooker had trouble staying healthy until that last 2 years with Tennessee? And look at what he did. So, and that was at Virginia Tech, obviously. But what if Nico's battling injuries for a couple of years and he needs that redshirt to have a year to himself? I'm just saying there's reasons that players do redshirt beyond just they weren't good until their 4th or 5th year. So I think just for Murphy's Law, worst case scenario, you redshirt. If you can use the redshirt, use the redshirt because you don't know what'll happen.
Well, one thing about it, Nico could. He could transfer at the end of this year and start out anywhere, be ready to play next year as a freshman, have 4 years to play.
We haven't brought that up, but what if he's frustrated by the lack of playing time?
Well, we don't know that. That's purely conjecture. I mean, I've heard different things on different sides, that his family wanted him to redshirt, all that kind of good stuff. I don't know that I believe that, but I think really good players usually want to play, and they're not afraid, oh, I might get hurt. They don't look at it that way. So, yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, Caleb just said Nico got $8 million to come here. All right? So he's a mercenary. If somebody else offers him $12 million, Why wouldn't he leave?
Because Tennessee would be the school that offers $12 million. I think Tennessee. I don't think any school can match Tennessee's NIL right now.
But you don't know that. I mean, what about Southern California? They can match anything.
I don't think they can match Tennessee. I don't.
Well,
Tennessee
according to the rankings, Tennessee is first in NIL collectives, but Texas A&M's getting stuff together and they're number 2. So I don't think Tennessee is far and away the best collective. I think they're one of the best collectives.
Let's break this. Let's take the Nico incentive. Okay, you guys talk about him transferring because he's not upset about starting this year when, like, he knows for a fact he's going to start next year. He's got a starting spot guaranteed for him next year if, going into the spring, if he doesn't get hurt at Tennessee. So we're saying he might transfer where he would not have a starting spot guaranteed because he's not happy that he started this year. And on the off chance too, that some school that doesn't have Tennessee's like, you bring up Texas A&M. Okay. If you're Nico, what would you rather do? Stay at Tennessee where you have a guaranteed starting spot next year in Josh Heupel's system, or go to Texas A&M where you have no idea what's in store for that program in the future?
No.
We're speaking hypothetically here. I mean, there's no. I'm not saying he's going to transfer or could. I just think there's the possibility out there. There are different ways to look at that. What if he looks at this depth chart and thinks next season's offensive line could get me killed or at least seriously injured? What if I want to go somewhere where I've got a better offensive line? Those kind of things, better receivers.
What if they tell him that you're going to be an opening quarterback competition with Zach Merklinger and he says
Jake Merklinger,
excuse me.
And Zach Merklinger, he will be in the mix.
And Zach.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah.
But if he were to say that and he said, I beat the hell out of Joe Milton in practice all year, why am I competing with anybody? I mean, kids think like this sometimes.
Well, yeah, I don't rule out anything in the transfer portal NIL era. There are guys that it's head scratching decisions. Well, why would Jermaine Burton, a wide receiver, leave Georgia for Alabama when he just won a national championship, beat Alabama?
That's fair because he's a 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid. I would be the best answer.
But and it's not just Nico making a decision. Probably is. I think the families get more involved than ever now because there's money at stake. It's not just a scholarship. They're involved too. So, I think you'd be better off here. Look what they did this year. Look at their depth chart. They may do more investigating in this than a college kid would. Look, they've got 2 all-conference offensive linemen coming back. That kind of thing. I just think there's so much that can go into this. I don't think Nico will transfer, but I wouldn't rule it out, is what I'm saying.
Well, and I don't think the fact that somebody posting with the last name Milton on our YouTube, when we tried to reach out to him, saying, why do you all blame my son for everything? Said it's not all his fault. That to me is a red flag. I can't tell you 100% that it's Joe Milton's dad, but why would you phrase it like that? Why would you?
What was the phraseology?
His last name was Milton, and he said, why would you blame everything on my son? It's not all his fault.
But we haven't, though, on this show at all. We've been very critical of him, but we've put a lot on the receivers not emerging. I mean, John earlier just said the receivers not emerging has been a big disappointment.
I've been a little critical of.
Dave's been very critical. I don't think we have, Caleb. I think Joe Milton's dad, if that's who issued that, and who knows who wrote that, but he needs to talk to Dave, maybe in a parking lot somewhere late at night.
Been in that situation. Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure that you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Go to Hemp House Chat with 2 T's, Hemp House Chat with 2 T's, and they'll take care of you. Use the promo code HOOKED. Get 10% off the promo code HOOKED. Get 10% off. All right, so we've got a little football IQ to play. Let's go ahead and get rolling. What dumb stuff did you see over the weekend? It's brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler. Looking for affordable game day jewelry? How about the Fire Opals, the Tennessee tradition rickterryjewelry.com. rickterryjewelry.com. So what do we got? Dumb decisions over the weekend. Were there any from the Tennessee-Georgia game, Caleb?
No, because it was a 38-10 game, and I don't think any coaching decision would have helped Tennessee win that game. So my football IQ rule is a coaching move has to actually cost you the game, and
Okay.
so
I don't have my sound effect, so we're gonna go scale of 1 to 10. How stupid? 10 being incredibly stupid. 1 just kind of Forrest Gumpish. He's getting by. All right. What do you got, Caleb? What's number 1?
Everybody's favorite coach on this show, Billy Napier, the detail-oriented Billy Napier. The 4th and 17 was a dumb play call, but because I don't understand why you have a guy in spy, but that's actually not the worst call. The worst decision was Florida trailing Mizzou 31-30, gets down to the Missouri 17 with 2.5 minutes left. Missouri has all 3 timeouts, and Billy Napier in his mind is thinking, let me go ahead and play for the field goal here and go for the win. So he runs it 3 times and kicks the field goal. By the way, even with that, one of his running backs runs out of bounds on 3rd down. You got to get a touchdown in a shootout like that. You can't give Missouri the ball back with a minute 40 left and 2 timeouts and only needing a field goal in a shootout like that to win. That's one of the dumbest decisions I think I've ever seen.
I saw that. Totally agree. John, is Tennessee better off if Florida keeps Billy Napier for a couple more years or fires him tomorrow?
That's hard to say because Billy Napier's recruiting well. I think you got to look at Florida's program is how well will Billy Napier set up the next coach for success.
Fair enough.
I think maybe Tennessee would be better off if they just kicked him to the curb right now.
Yeah, I'm hearing some rumors that some of those cats are about to jump. We'll see.
So he's the Ron Zook of Florida right now is what we're saying.
And yes, I mean, he set up the table for Urban Meyer to win a championship. I'm sure Urban Meyer said, hey, thanks for the players, Ron. When I need a special teams coach, I might give you a call.
Portions of the program brought to you by Don Self. Customer service still matters. State Farm agent Don Self and his team take customer service seriously. For well over 40 years, they built their business and reputation on taking care of their customers. I love it. Collegedale, Ottawa, as well as the greater Chattanooga area, customer service still matters. As we talk football IQ, the smartest IQ you can make, if you're in the Chattanooga areas, look for Don Self. Google him, and he will take care of you. What's up next there, Caleb?
All right, up next, I believe I like him as a head coach, but Mark Stoops, Kentucky, South Carolina. I don't know if you saw this, John, over the weekend. It was a 17-14 game. In a close game like that, in a low-scoring game, I understand not being aggressive and things like that, but I think you always play for points at the end of the half if there's a chance. So there was about a minute 15 left. South Carolina brought up a 4th down, minute 15 at the end of the first half. And it's 4th down. Kentucky has 3 timeouts. There's a penalty. They elected not to take a timeout and to allow the 10-second runoff so they could get the ball back with 13 seconds left on the clock and play for halftime. I'm sorry. If you have 2 or 3 timeouts and the other team's punting the ball to you and there's over a minute left, you use that timeout because you don't know what could happen. You could get a blocked punt, a good return, something. But Mark Stoops decided with a minute 15 left and 2 timeouts, I'm going to play for halftime and no points.
Yeah, that's, I think the best days of the Mark Stoops era at Kentucky have come and gone. I think, he's done a nice job there, but they've hit their ceiling. This is as good as it's get there. Louisville's coming on strong. The SEC is going to get tougher. They need to just move to the MAC. They really do.
What's sad is that's not the worst idea.
Wait, what we didn't do the scale for Napier's call, and now we got to do it for Stoops' call. What scale of 1 to 10 for Napier?
Well, let's go back to Napier first, because I hate it when coaches start lining things up for a field goal. I don't care if the other team has no timeouts left. I've seen too many teams go 40, 45 yards in 40 seconds with no timeouts. You just can't try and score a touchdown.
Yeah, to me that was a 10. And
That's a 10.
So how would you judge that, Dave, if it were a 10?
As dumb as it comes. If you don't know that,
is there something wrong with your system?
No, 10 is the dumbest.
Okay.
No, he's
We're missing something.
The sound
here.
effects. He's talking about the sound effects. That
Oh
usually
yeah,
have.
the sound
Yeah,
effects,
yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
Thanksgiving
It's
week.
a
Come on,
highlight
John.
of my show, but I forgot about it.
We'll have them back. We'll have them back for you next week. And what about
Well, John, what do you think of Napier? 10, 1? Where do you scale the Napier call?
Well, I think it's a 10, but that's a pet peeve of mine. The way college football is now, teams go so fast, so far. This idea, and you don't even know if the guy's going to make the field goal. I hate it when you say, "Well, we'll set up."
I'm actually have to do 9 for that because there's some dumber ones coming. And like as dumb as what Billy Napier did there's some actual dumber ones on this segment that are coming. So for Stoops, I go about 5.
Looking forward to it. Go ahead.
What do y'all think for the Stoops one? I got about 5 to 6 for Stoops. I believe you always play for points, but Dave's convinced me of maybe we don't know all the situations of Kentucky at that moment at halftime.
I go 5.
I think that's perfect because 5 or 6 is how many wins Kentucky's going to be getting routinely in the years to come.
Oh Lord! All right, our returning champion, guys, who has become a mainstay on this program, Mario Cristobal.
Welcome him back.
Yes, I feel like he's on every week. Miami was trailing Louisville 38-31. There was 1:40 left. They had all 3 timeouts. It was 4th and goal from the 3-yard line. Clock was stopped. Cristobal decided to use a timeout to talk about the 4th down play. And y'all know how I feel about that. And guess what?
That's a 10 by nature.
Yeah. Louisville, guess what? Was able to run the clock down to 18 seconds when Miami got the ball back. Miami could have had the ball with 58 seconds. Instead, they got it with 18. You don't think that made a difference?
It did. It did.
10, John? Where you going?
Yeah, definitely. But you know what? Really, for him, that's an 11 because he's routinely a 10. So when he goes above and beyond, you got to ratchet it up to 11.
He's like a 10 higher. If you could just rate what's the scale of average dumb decisions on a weekly basis?
Can we call this the Mario Cristobal segment? I would really be in favor of that.
Yeah.
I think we should. A couple more. Guys, we got an old SEC guy to come in for this one. Gus Malzahn made the list this week with UCF. So here was a great one. This was epic. UCF lost to Texas Tech 24-23. At the end of the first half, they had the ball 2nd and goal at the Texas Tech 5 with 12 seconds. No timeouts. Now, 12 seconds, you probably have time to run maybe 1, maybe 2 plays, throw it into the end zone, right?
Yes.
Gus Malzahn
and 2 plays, sure.
In Gus Malzahn's incessant brilliance, he calls a shovel pass that is tackled at the line of scrimmage, so the clock runs out and they don't even get a field goal out of it.
There's no in between with a shovel pass. You either look brilliant or really stupid.
I know. When it doesn't work, Dave, isn't it the worst looking play ever?
Yeah. And you know, they do that on the jet sweep thing too, where they'll pitch it forward. So that way, technically, it's a pass. So if you have a bad exchange, it's an incomplete pass, but it still just makes you look dumb.
So 10 guys, come on. You have to throw it into the end zone.
I'll give it to
surely.
That was definitely a treasure. Brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, Facebook, Sports Treasures TN. Yeah, that was a treasure of a dumb move. Sports Treasure.
It was
right there in North Knoxville.
It was reminiscent of the Titans in the Super Bowl deciding, let's throw a pass to Dyson short of the end zone. That's just so smart, Jeff Fisher. Okay, sorry. That's my rant on Jeff Fisher because I can't stand him.
Wow, that was hostility.
Who was the halftime performer at that Super Bowl? Do you remember, John? Do you remember?
1999.
I was at the Super Bowl, but my gosh, it was 25 years ago. Who was a halftime?
Yeah. Check that out for me because I remember not being.
Oh, Christina Aguilera and Enrique Iglesias. Oh, I totally forgot about.
Wow.
I love Christina though.
They really went all out on that one.
Yeah.
All right.
If my media seat hadn't been the highest row in section 330, maybe I would have seen some of it. But it took me 30 minutes to get to the restroom and back. All right.
But
Tina Turner performed at the opening of the Super Bowl that year too, which was since she's from Tennessee, that was a good decision.
I can't wait to see her perform one day.
Was that a joke? Because I don't think you're ever going to see her perform one day. Okay, so
Very inappropriate.
number one though is yes, it's I know I'm a Terp grad, but at the same time, you couldn't ignore this game against Michigan on Saturday. I give Mike Locksley a lot of credit. He brought back the quarterback sneak. He ran 4 quarterback sneaks on 3 goal line plays, and I was standing up and applauding him, saying, amazing job, Mike Locksley. But in the loss to Michigan, Maryland has the ball on their own 1-yard line. It's 3rd and 18. The play clock is running down. Guys, a delay of game is a half-yard penalty because you're on your own 1-yard line. Mike Locksley burns a timeout to avoid the delay of game penalty. And by the way, Michigan was able to run out the clock in the end because Maryland was short a timeout. So yeah, he burned a timeout to avoid a half-yard penalty. See,
I think all of your picks today have been very consistent. I mean, they're all upper level.
Yeah,
I think in terms of stupidity.
No, I agree. Caleb's throwing high heat.
Yes.
Want to remind you that John's brought to you in part by Tennessee Cider Company, the original hard cider of the Smoky Mountains. Use the promo code HAT, that's HAT, to receive some free swag with your cider order. Available most anywhere in the U.S. tncidercompany.com. Promo code HAT, get free swag. John, very thankful that you're a part of the program. Have a very happy Thanksgiving. Your number one side is...
KnoxNews.com. I also write for the Knoxville News Sentinel, and I'm on SEC Unfiltered with Blake Totmeyer, our podcast.
John, what can you tell us about Squanto? You knew him, right?
I ask you for your favorite sides. What's your favorite Thanksgiving side?
Oh, I was assuming what you were getting ready to say and didn't even listen. My favorite sides, you know what? I'm really not that big on Thanksgiving.
Sad. Thanks for bringing some fun to the party, John. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving. We will talk to you soon.
See you guys.
John Adams of the Knoxville News.
Got cataracts.
Sorry about that. John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel. No, I don't have cataracts yet, but I'm sure it's just a matter of time. Usually it happens around your mid-40s, 50s, and I know that I will go to Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn because look at me. No glasses. I can see. It's pretty awesome. So what do we got coming up next there, Caleb? I love this topic. I want to do it with you because I was afraid that John Adams would get sidetracked.
Got a little hoops coming up. Also, just want to point out, can I share the picture? Did you see that, just for a quick funny thing, we could do it on the way back, that Butch Jones wore a bowl-bound t-shirt after Arkansas State got their 6th win?
We have to do that when we come back. That is too good. That's as teasable as they get. Butch Jones is bowl-bound, and cats and dogs living together. Everything is going insane. Let me tell you something about Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn before we get to what we doing. Prop bets next. What do we got going on next?
No. We got just basketball. Just some basketball. I just wanted to show the Butch Jones t-shirt beforehand.
Okay. So hoops up next. Butch Jones looking like a doofus. 2 minutes. Stay tuned. This is Off Thug Sports.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
These mountains hold and defend a spirit. Far better than moonshine. A drink that holds flavor, that becomes necessity. A hard cider made and relished by folk who are as hearty as they are legend. A refreshment that can only be found in one place. With a taste that makes you say, give me 3 bottles of the good stuff. Tennessee Cider Company, where necessity can be found.
All right, let's get to that Butch Jones picture. He has a shirt that says 2023 bowl bound. Before we get to basketball, as the Vols are pretty darn good. Let me remind you of this for a second while he's wearing this shirt, and it's on our YouTube channel. Please hit the like and subscribe button. It would be one thing if James Franklin went to Vanderbilt and got them bowl bound, right? Vanderbilt was not bowl bound for 2 decades, right?
Correct.
So here is Butch Jones's record. Here is Butch Jones's record in his previous 2 seasons. He's 2-10-0, and well, there's not an O anymore. There's not time.
Wow, Dave, you just dated yourself.
Well, no, it was. It's because some people tied back in Arkansas State history. So he was 2-10. He's 3 and he was 2-10 in 2021, 3-9 this year, and I assume he has 6 wins to make to be bowl eligible. Now, but here's the funny thing: you're not going to a school that's had 0 success. Would you care to answer this question? Was Arkansas State bowl bound in 2020?
They were not in 2020.
They were not. They're 4-7 and made the change to Blake Anderson and Butch Jones, which they'll soon regret. Before that, 2019 bowl bound. 2018 bowl bound. 2017 bowl bound. 2016 bowl bound. 2015 bowl bound. 2014 bowl bound. 2013 bowl bound. 2012 bowl bound. 2011 bowl bound. So they almost make a bowl every year, and Butch goes out in his tone-deaf ways and say, look at us, bowl bound.
In his 3rd year.
Down the dumbest PR stance that you could take. You go to a bowl every year before you got there.
I know. It is classic Butch Jones. If in case you so remember, by the way, the 1 year they missed, it was a COVID year. Dave, we all agreed to throw that year out, right? Like many things went
about that.
Yeah. And so every year that wasn't a COVID year since 2011, Arkansas State had gone to a bowl before Butch Jones took over. And Butch Jones goes 2-10, 3-9. And this year he's 6-5 and he wears a bowl bound shirt. And the funniest was when they lost to Oklahoma 73 to whatever to nothing at the beginning of the year, he said, he had a quote where he said, there's a lot of players on this team that care. And that wasn't the case when I first got here. I'm like, I think the players cared that they were better before you got there. So what are you talking about? And he acted like he was doing a rebuilding job, but this is Butch Jones. This is his history. This is what he's always done. Remember when he went 8-4 at Tennessee, Dave, and he sold it like he won a national championship the next year?
Yeah, and I can remember him going up to somebody that covers Tennessee on a day-to-day basis, and before the Alabama game when he was an analyst, somehow they let him make the trip, I believe, and he said, well, everybody's should have realized what they got. They were getting 9-win seasons before, and look at them now. Like, dude, that is not what a Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia and Florida and even South Carolina, no offense, SC Scout guy, that's not what they're shooting for. It's not shooting for a 9-win season and, hey, let's have a parade down the Henley Street Bridge. I mean, that's not – he's just so out of touch and so tone deaf. This Tennessee basketball team is got a chance to be pretty darn good. What did you think of their win last night and your thoughts? I know Syracuse isn't great by any stretch of the imagination. They're not the Cuse you're used to, but Tennessee's basketball team looks pretty darn good.
I think there were a lot of great signs for Tennessee basketball and a lot of questions that I have for them that were unanswered. The good signs is their defense is still what you want. They were plus 28 with Josiah Jordan-James on the court, Dave. He is everything for this team. He's kind of not like Dalton Connect is the scorer, but Josiah Jordan-James is the glue guy. You know what I mean? Like that type of player that, like, I would almost say like Celtics in the 80s. Wasn't Cedric Maxwell kind of that? for the Celtics. I mean, Larry Bird and McHale and Parrish were the stars, but like seemed like Cedric Maxwell and Danny Ainge were kind of like the do everything.
You're
for the
slightly before my time. I know you think that I'm 80 years old, but I do know who Cedric Maxwell was, but I don't know the role he played on that Celtics team. So that's a little bit before my time. I think this is an exciting basketball team with Connect, and Tennessee has been able to play at a high level without, for the most part, Santiago Vescovi, who had 6 points against Syracuse, but he's been gone dealing with a personal issue across the ocean.
And Connect left the game with 8 minutes left yesterday because of cramps. Don't forget that.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is not a team that's anywhere close to full strength. It may be 75% full strength. I know Zakai Ziegler also missed some time as well. I mean, this is a Tennessee basketball team, and it's all about timing. Okay, sometimes you hit the tournament and you're playing your best ball. That's why they look at the last 10 games before the tournament. Sometimes you go into the tournament and some guy gets hot. Other times, Method Man gets hurt at Cincinnati. So you have to hope for some timeliness. But the great part about this basketball team is I think they could make a deep run into the tournament. You correct me if I'm wrong. Again, we know what Tennessee has with Rick Barnes. Okay, so I understand you thinking that's not going to be the case, and I completely understand. But I don't think there's one player on this team. I don't wish anybody to get hurt, but there's one player in this team that could get hurt in February that you would say, well, that destroys their Final Four chances. Do you?
I mean, I think Santi not being fully healthy right now there are issues that are showing with that. This doesn't. I can't say this is a Final Four team yet. And Josiah, like I told you, because of the defense that he brings, him getting hurt could be critical. There's two questions from Tennessee though that weren't answered yesterday. One, how often have I been on this, Dave? They were 5 of 14 from 3. When you make deep runs in March, I think in a season you need to average 7 to 8 made 3-pointers a game and take about 17 to 20 3-point shots in a game. Average that, right? You can't go on 5. And and the other part is Jonas Aidoo, to his credit, had a double-double yesterday. 15 points or 12, 13, something like that, points to 12 rebounds. Syracuse went to a zone with 8 minutes left. They brought back the Jim Boeheim zone when Dalton Connect went out. It was a perfect time to do it, and Jonas Aidoo just torched that zone. That's a good sign. Here's the problem. Can Jonas Aidoo score like that when teams are actually playing man under the basket? Because the issue with Tennessee right now, and Dave, one of the reasons they don't shoot the ball as well from 3, and you brought this up last year, they still haven't found the guy who you're worried when he gets the ball in position inside because he's just that good and that much of a threat. That is a crucial part of the inside-out game, and I don't know if Jonas Aidoo can be that guy. And you know this. You play a perimeter zone, it's easy to score under the basket in that moment. That's what you're supposed to do.
So the message board said that if Connect goes down, it's probably Tennessee's player with the best upside. If he were to go down in February, that would be bad.
I mean, Connect went down yesterday, and Tennessee turned a 3-point lead into a 17-point win because they have so much. Connect is like the guy. You have a complete team, and then you have just on top of a complete team, a guy that just is your best player. That's just an epic scorer and everything. That's Connect. You know what I mean? It's like he is your best player as a do-it-all, as your go-to scorer. But it's not like it's like you have a complete puzzle and then you add Connect in. And so he's not the missing puzzle piece in terms of inside scoring or 3-point shooting, although he was 3 of 4 from 3 yesterday. And I think that's the question that Tennessee needs to answer at the moment. They'll find out tonight, by the way, with the inside presence. Jonas Aidoo has a major test. Tennessee has a top 10 matchup with Purdue. Many of you guys may be watching this after the game, but like it's the biggest college basketball matchup in November.
Rapid answer, Dave, John C. What's our basketball record this year, and how deep do we go into the dance quick before the ice melts? I don't know why the ice is melting or where you are, but I will say Tennessee wins 24 games and they make the Elite Eight. We haven't really done predictions to this point, so I guess that's apropos. What about you?
I I am going to go 26 games, but Sweet 16. Y'all aren't going to convince me that this team doesn't get, and it's still the same issue. You can't convince me that Rick Barnes doesn't wear this team down by February. I've seen it too much, that he grinds people too hard.
Well, the reason I'm going to Elite Eight is because I think he's made some changes. You pointed them out. I think maybe he takes his foot off the gas a little bit earlier. Listen, when you're 70, is he 72? Is he when you're at that age and you have 60? You're right, it is 69. When you hit that point, and if you don't look at yourself in the mirror and think, I need to do something different because I've had a very successful coaching career and I've only made one Final Four, there's a problem, Caleb. But that's a problem. I mean, you have absolutely got to look at yourself in the mirror at 69 and say, I've been doing this for 40 years and I've only made the Final Four once. I got to make some changes.
Yeah, that, and also it seems, y'all think about this, Dave. Tennessee has never lost to a higher seed in the NCAA. They've never played a higher seed in the NCAA tournament under Rick Barnes. Every single loss they've had has been to a lower seed since they've gone to the NCAA tournament. That to me is the most telling stat, isn't it? That every single loss in the tournament has been to a lower seed to this point. And
no, absolutely. And somebody else wants to agree with you. We had a post from the Parker family. I don't know if this person represents the entire family, but this team is tight. If Barnes lets them play loose and doesn't grind them into powder by February, it could be a special team. Okay, let me ask you this. So Jerry Green, last time I talked to him, was shoveling gravel in his driveway. Okay. And that was many years ago. If Jerry Green could show up in his prime and coach this team as of late November, would Tennessee go deeper in the tournament than with Rick Barnes and his propensity to run teams into the ground?
They would go exactly the same.
They would too. Because Jerry Green wasn't much better in the tournament.
Jerry Green also, all 4 years, Tennessee lost to a lower seed in the tournament, all 4 years. So, I mean, we're talking they would go exactly the same, but for different reasons. For Barnes, he has a style. I've told you, if Barnes were, if the March Madness were structured like the NBA playoffs, I'd actually have Tennessee winning it, because in the NBA, defense can matter more because you can lose one game with the team getting red hot shooting the ball. You know what I mean?
Yes, this is awful, Elias. I'm disappointed in you. He says Rick Barnes would still be 69 if we won the NCAA tournament. If that happens, there damn well better be some nice T-shirts made. Nothing's finer than 69er.
And also
celebrate 69.
Celebrate 69.
Yeah,
and with Hooker, celebrate 69.
Yeah, I think there's some others as well. I've never felt better than 69. All right, have a fantastic day, everyone. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation